Hare Krishna. Welcome back to the Mahabharata Characters series. We continue with our discussion about Bhima. So Bhima guided the Pandavas through great dangers and enabled them to attain victory over Hidimba and then Baka. And then he helped Arjuna in Draupadi Swayamvar by holding back the other kings. There he bested Shalya in a wrestling match. And then they all came, they were all invited back. They were given one half of the kingdom. So when Maharaj Yudhishthir wanted to perform the Rajasuya Yajna, one of the biggest obstacles in the performance of that Yajna was Jarasandha. And because he had a formidable army, the Pandavas decided that rather than facing him in a war where so much bloodshed would be there, and he had such a huge army that would be undefeatable practically, decided to challenge him to a one-to-one combat, and Bhima was equal to him in one-to-one combat. So as per Krishna's plan, all of three of them disguised themselves as Snatakas. Snatakas means students. Now the Snataka Vrata can be taken by both Brahmanas and Kshatriyas, but normally Brahmanas take that Vrata. So everybody thought that they were Brahmanas, and they came to his capital Girivraja, and his capital was Jarasandha was surrounded by various mountains, and there was the tallest of them was Chaityakavasha, the tall peak, and they went right up to there and started breaking the peak down, and then they came down, and Jarasandha had kept a huge drum over there which he had made using the skin of a demon that he had killed, and he would sound that drum repeatedly to warn off invaders who would come, reminding them of his power. So Bhima, Arjuna and Krishna completely broke that drum to pieces, and then they climbed up the side wall, and then they clambered over and they came into the city. And the guards, they were surprised to see this unconventional entry of these three Brahmins. Normally if some invaders had come like this, they would have attacked them, but because they were Brahmins, they stood back surprised and let them come inside. And as they came inside, at that time the Brahmanas, of seeming Brahmanas, they went into the city and they went to Jarasandha's palace, and as they came to Jarasandha's palace, he saw them and he welcomed them, and they said that actually Krishna spoke on their behalf. Now because they had dressed like Snatakas and they were not immediately recognizable, and he said that my two friends have taken a vow of silence, therefore they will not speak now, at midnight we will speak to you. So Jarasandha said although he had his anti-devotional nature, he was hostile to Krishna, but still he respected Brahmanas, and he knew that by serving Brahmanas one gets strength. He wanted to use the strength for self-centered purposes, and actually he was so brutal that his plan was somehow or the other he wanted to get power. If by serving Brahmanas he could get power, he would do that, and he thought that if I offer a sacrifice to Kala Bhairav, to Shiva, that will also give me power. So he thought that let me offer a sacrifice which nobody has offered, and he decided to challenge kings, defeat them and imprison them. And his plan was, after he had an adequate number of kings, 108 kings, then he would sacrifice those kings, and he said nobody else has offered kings in a sacrifice. It's a brutal plan, and actually the kings were in misery. Those who were used to live in royalty, they were living in prison, and they had begged Krishna for help by sending a messenger, and Krishna had come here to rescue them also. So Jarasandha's Brahminical culture was just a show. Respect for Brahminical culture was just a show, because he thought this by giving charity I can get power, then I'll give charity to Brahmanas, and if by killing human beings in sacrifice I'll get power, I'll do that also. So all that motivated him was a hunger for power, and it was not the well-being of others. So then at midnight Jarasandha came, and at that time he looked at these three. He had been pondering about these Brahmanas, and his spies had told him about what all they had done, and he was curious. He suspected they were not Brahmanas, and he looked at their body carefully. He saw that their muscles were very well formed and they had formidable build, and he noticed that they are probably not Brahmanas. And he said, "Oh, who are you? And why have you come in the garb of Snatakas? Although I have not done you any harm, but still you came in a very hostile way, destroying my drum and destroying the peak. What do you want from me? But still, if you come in the garb of Brahmanas, I'll give you charity. But tell me who you are. I don't think you are Brahmanas." So Krishna said, "Yes, you are right. We are not Brahmanas, but it is not that Brahmanas alone can take the Snataka Vrat, others can take also." And he said, and he identified all three of them. And Jarasandha started laughing. "Oh, Krishna, my old enemy. I suspected that you will be coming. You ran away from me because you dared not fight me in a fair battle, and now you have come in a garb. What do you want from me? What charity do you want?" We do not want any charity, ordinary charity. We want a charity of a single combat with you. He laughed. Jarasandha was extremely proud of his own power, and he felt that nobody will match him in a battle. So he said, I'm ready. Whoever you want, you can fight with me. But actually, Krishna, you already run away from me, so you are not fit to fight with me. And Arjuna is inferior to me in strength. So only Bhima, I think, is powerful enough. So then they decided, okay, tomorrow morning we'll start fighting. And then he considered them his guests. He still offered them his hospitality. And they went away to make arrangements for the fight. And the next morning, both of them took maces and they started fighting. The news had spread to all the citizens and they all came to watch. And the fight went on, and both of them fought with the maces. They fought fiercely, and finally both the maces broke apart, and then they fell on each other with their fists and started beating each other. And the way they were fighting, it seemed like a graceful dance, the way they were moving around each other. And finally, as they kept fighting in this way, eventually nobody was able to get the upper hand. The whole day passed. And then, when evening came, they stopped the fight, and Jarasandha treated them as guests and offered them all hospitality. And the next day again they started the fight. The fight went on for 27 days. And Bhima felt that he would never be able to win against Jarasandha. And Jarasandha also started feeling great respect for his opponent. Nobody had been able to match with him in single combat till now. And Bhima consulted Krishna. He said, how should I be able to kill him? It seems that he's so strong and he has no weaknesses. So Krishna recollected the story of Jarasandha's birth. There had been a great king Brihadratha who had performed a yajna. He had not been able to have children, so he had performed a yajna, and the Brahmin had given him a magical fruit and had told him to give this to his senior queen and she would beget a child. But this king became a little greedy and he thought, let me have 2 children. So he broke the fruit into 2 and gave it to his 2 queens. And when the child was born and when they delivered their child, actually both of them delivered only half of child. And the queens were heartbroken, and then seeing this, considering those halves to be useless, they had those halves discarded into the forest. But there was a demoness named Jara. When she saw the 2 halves, she was surprised and she saw those 2 halves and playfully she fit them together. And both of them got fit together. And then she returned the child who had come to life back to the king. And the king was very pleased and he decided to name that child after the demoness. So Jara Sandha. Sandha means sandhi, or to unite, to join together. So one who was united by Jara. So Bhima agreed. So Krishna recollected the story and told Bhima that because he has been joined in the middle as 2 halves, I feel his only weakness will be in the middle. So if you can just rip him apart, that is your only hope. Otherwise he is undefeatable. So Bhima just needed that hint. And next morning when they're fighting fiercely, the fighting was going on. So often one person would knock the other down, but the other would always get up and continue the fight. So at this particular time, when Bhima knocked down Jarasandha, he just pounced on him and held him down, and he held one leg down and pulled him apart with the other leg. With a fierce pull, all his strength, and he pulled him apart right from the bottom up. His whole body got cut in half. Half of his stomach, half of his chest, half of his nose, right from the bottom up, it got ripped into half completely. And Jarasandha gave a terrible scream and fell dead. And the Pandavas then went and along with Krishna and released the kings who had been imprisoned. And they told Jarasandha's son, it's saying that if you are ready to offer tributes to Yudhishthir, then we have no hostility against you. You can become the king. He agreed, and then he arranged for the funeral rites of his father, and he became the king under Krishna's protection and the Pandavas' protection. The Pandavas released the kings, and the kings offered prayers to Krishna and offered gratitude to him as well as the Pandavas. They promised to bring tributes to Yudhishthir's sacrifice. And in this way, Bhima arranged to remove the biggest obstacle for the Yudhishthir Maharaj's Rajsuya sacrifice. That obstacle was in the form of Jarasandha, who was undefeatable and who was defeated by Bhima with the guidance of Krishna. And the Rajsuya was performed, and then the match was held in which the Pandavas lost everything, and Bhima took the vow to kill the 100 Kauravas. Those fierce vows which we discussed, to rip apart, to cut the hand of Dushasana and to drink his blood, and to break the thigh of Duryodhana also. And Bhima was furious as he was going towards the forest. And as he was going out, and the Pandavas were going through the forest towards the jungle at that time, suddenly, going through the jungle, suddenly they saw a huge demon. He looked as tall as a tree, and he had huge fangs, and he looked so ferocious that Draupadi shrank and came close to the Pandavas in fear. And who are you? Bhima asked. And he says, I am Kirmira, I am the brother of Baka, and I live over there, and any humans who are foolish enough to come in my path, I devour them. Today you will become my food. But before I eat you, tell me who you are. And he said that we are the 5 sons of Pandu, and we are going to the forest. We will not harm you if you do not harm us, he says. Oh, what good fortune! I wanted to take revenge for the killing of Baka, and now today I will do that. Good fortune you have come in front of me. Today I will drink your blood and wipe away the tears of Baka's relatives. And he was having a huge fiery torch in his hand, and he hurled it at the Pandavas. Bhima moved with lightning speed. He dropped to his ground and just with his feet just deflected the torch. And the demon immediately picked up a huge tree and hit it at Bhima. And Bhima was completely unaffected by it. And then they started hurling trees and fighting. Fight went on, and it was a fierce fight. Intensely. It went on for over an hour. And finally, Bhima grabbed the demon in his hands, and that was to shake him violently and to make him lose his breath. As he was being shaken violently in this way, but then Bhima's grip, the demon who had been knocked down, and he just reached forward and grabbed Bhima's neck, and in a deadly grip it had to crush Bhima. And Bhima was shaking him violently to get him lose his breath. And then finally, Bhima just flung around and started whirling him around. His grip loosened, and as he whirled him around and threw him to the ground, as he fell with a giant crash. Kirmira was such a fierce demon that just by his sight, birds would fly away or drop in fear and terror. And Bhima fearlessly pounced on top of him, put his knee on his chariot and caught his neck and strangled him. And leaving him there, the Pandavas departed. So this was how Bhima protected the demons. And later on, Maitreya Rishi came to the Kuru assembly and told them that such terrible demons like Kirmira also have been killed by Bhima. Nobody can withstand his power. And Dhritarashtra, when he heard about the whole story, and Vidura told that when I had gone to the forest and I was coming back, I myself saw the giant carcass of Kirmira. Dhritarashtra's heart trembled in fear. Bhima went on. He would diligently serve his brothers, although he was very angry in the forest. At one time, one Rakshasa came in the garb of a Brahmana, and he lived with the Pandavas for a long time. And he was waiting for an opportunity to seize Draupadi. And at one time, suddenly, when Bhima was far away, he thought that Bhima is the most formidable, and others are not very great. So, when Bhima was far away, he grabbed Draupadi and he started dragging her away. And not only he wanted to grab Draupadi, he wanted to take the Pandavas' weapons also. He took the Pandavas' weapons and he dragged the remaining 4 Pandavas also, and he was planning to kill them somewhere else and then take Draupadi for himself. The Pandavas started shouting at him. Yudhishthira started telling, "Oh fool! Why are you wreaking havoc in the human society? The whole of universe is dependent on human beings. The human beings perform sacrifices and that's how everyone gets their needs fulfilled. Why are you creating such a havoc? You will be killed for this." So Yudhishthira, when he saw that his power was not, he was overpowered by this demon, he used his other power, the power of knowledge, to try to make the demon see sense. Meanwhile, Sahadev slipped free from the demon's grip and he also grabbed his sword and he charged towards the demon. And he was also calling out to Bhima. And Bhima was alert and he heard his call and he charged towards there. Sahadev was challenging the demon, and when Bhima also came there using his mighty mace, the demon dropped the Draupadi and the Pandavas and their weapons and got ready to fight. It was a fierce fight, but Bhima fought and fought, and Bhima said, "I knew who you were, but I considered you no great threat, and because you were in the dress of a Brahmin, so I decided not to harm you. But now, by casting your eye on Draupadi and by trying to abduct her, you have invited your death." And Bhima destroyed him completely. So, as Bhima was using his formidable prowess to go all around, wherever he would go, he would act as the guardian for the Pandavas, and especially when Arjuna went to the heavens. Arjuna was the foremost archer, and Arjuna went to the heavens. At that time, Bhima was left alone over there. Actually, the other Pandavas were also there, but Bhima was extremely powerful. And at one time, when the Pandavas were living in the forest, through the river, Draupadi saw a beautiful 1,000-petal lotus coming down from the celestial regions, from the Mandakini Ganga down. And she asked for that lotus, and then Bhima offered her the lotus, and her face lit up on seeing that lotus. She said, "This lotus is so beautiful. If you could preserve it, and we could take it back and we could give it to Kunti, and we could have this as a memento of our times here." It was beautiful, and because it was celestial lotus, it was unfading. So she turned towards Bhima with appealing eyes, and he said, "Can you get more lotuses like this?" Now Bhima felt himself commanded by her sweet glance. He knew that she was suffering because of the austerity of forest life, and all the more so because Arjuna was not there. So he wanted to do whatever he could to mitigate her suffering and to give her pleasure. Immediately he took his mace and started charging up next to the river. He would go up, 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 and there were sometimes bulls and elephants and lions and tigers who would come in the way, and Bhima would just give them one slap and they would just fly in different directions. So that was the fierce power of Bhima. The animals had never seen a human being like this. Humans would flee in terror from seeing them, but here they had to flee in terror on just seeing and feeling, especially all the more on feeling the blow of Bhima. He was charged up, and as he was charging up, suddenly on the path on which he was going, he saw a monkey lying, and the monkey's tail was spread across the path. So he told the monkey, "Oh monkey, please remove your tail so that I can move forward from here." So he said, the monkey looked very old and tired, and he said, "No, I am very tired, so I cannot move away from here. If you want, you can lift off my tail. And anyway, why do you want to go up here? Actually, this is the area of the celestials, and human beings are not allowed to go there. Better stay here peacefully." When Bhima heard this, he said, "I am not interested in your advice. Move aside so that I can move onwards." So when Bhima spoke this, the monkey said, "I am become very tired. I cannot exert myself anymore. If you want me to move aside, then if you want to go, then you can just move aside the tail, and then you can go." Now it's significant that although Bhima was so powerful, he did not think that he can just go over the tail. Because the idea was, he also knew that in every body there is a super soul who resides, and every body needs to be respected. So he could not very well step over the body and go. And he is nonchalant. He thought, maybe who is this monkey? Maybe he's a demon. So he decided that if he were a demon, then I will teach him a good lesson. His plan was, he'll just pick up the tail and toss it aside, and if the monkey would resist, then he would fight with him and he would teach him a lesson. He nonchalantly picked up the tail to toss it aside, and to his surprise, he couldn't even move it. He picked it up both his hands, picked it up with both hands, and still nothing happened. He used all his strength, and still nothing happened. And he tried pushing up, pulling up, pulling up, pulling up again and again and again, and still nothing happened. He started sweating and grunting, and the monkey was just lying there nonchalantly. And Bhima's all nonchalance was gone. He was becoming furious. And gradually the fury gets replaced by exhaustion and bewilderment. And finally Bhima realized. He says, who are you? You know, my power is such that even the gods cannot resist it, and I am not able to budge your tail also. Please tell me who you are. And at that time he said, no, I am just an ordinary monkey. He says, no, you cannot be an ordinary monkey. Please reveal to me who you are. And Bhima started thinking. He says, are you that great monkey Hanuman who had done such tremendous service in the army of Lord Ram? And when he heard this, the monkey smiled, and he revealed himself as Hanuman. And Bhima was delighted. Actually, Bhima and Hanuman are in one sense brothers, because both of them are sons of Vayu. And he was delighted to meet, and he offered his respects, and Hanuman embraced him. And he said, I am delighted to see you. I am honored to see you. And then they said that, oh, do not become so proud and insolent like this. Always be careful about what you are doing. Otherwise, you may get into unnecessary trouble. And then he asked him about all the adventures that he had performed. And Bhima and Hanuman described about the great war that he had fought in the service of Ram. And as Hanuman was describing how he had assumed a giant form by which he went across the ocean, jumping across for the service of Lord Ram, Bhima was delighted, and he begged to Hanuman, please show me the form that you had assumed. So Hanuman said, no, I cannot show you that form. The ages have changed, and different ages have different capacities associated with them. So now in this age, I do not have the capacity to show that form. So Bhima felt that Hanuman still has the capacity, but Hanuman is just out of his natural humility is not ready to show the form. But so he kept talking with him, and gradually as their affection deepened more and more, then again Bhima requested, please show me that form. And Hanuman smiled, and suddenly right next to him he saw a giant form. It went so high up, it was stunning. The form just was, it was almost like on the mountain there was another mountain. And Bhima looked up and he says, this form is the form which is the form with which I served Lord Ram, and that same Lord Ram is now here as Krsna, and you will be serving him by doing extraordinary service. And Hanuman said that I will also be there at that time, and I will be there as the standard on Arjuna's chariot. Kapidhvajaha, the mark of a monkey is there on his chariot, and Hanuman said, I will be present as that monkey, and then I will by my roars strike terror in the hearts of your enemies, and you will be blessed and you will attain success. Just as I served Lord Ram, you will serve Krishna in your mission. There will be a great war, and in that you will eventually attain success. And then they decided to part ways, and Hanuman warned Bhima, when you go to the heavens, do not disturb the celestials. They are powerful beings and they deserve your respect. So Hanuman cautioned Bhima, and Bhima was felt chastened, especially after seeing how his power had been reduced to insignificance as compared to the power of Hanuman. But still, he decided to keep marching forward. And as he marched onwards and onwards and onwards, eventually, just the sheer adventure of climbing up, the exhilaration of using his power, that got to him, and again he forgot his warning. And finally, he came to the lake, and there he saw many flowers, similar to the flowers which Draupadi had given. And then he saw that there were also the guards of Kuvera who were guarding it. And he said that I want to take these flowers. He said, no, these flowers belong to Kuvera. You cannot take them without his permission. So Bhima said, actually all creation belongs to the Supreme Lord. And this is out here in the nature. And I will not ask anyone for permission from any god for that which belongs to the Supreme God. And Bhima also knew that whatever would be offered to Draupadi, she would offer it to the Supreme Lord before putting it to any use. So he swam into the lake to take, he started going towards the lake to take the flowers. And as he was charging towards the lake to take the flowers, at that time, the guards came to attack him, and Bhima fought with them. He had his mace with him and just started hurling the mace. And the guards had never seen power like this. And they fell back. They regrouped and came back, and Bhima attacked them and wounded them again. They fled and went towards Kuvera. And they reported to Kuvera what had happened. And when Kuvera heard, he smiled and he said that yes, let Vayu's son take whatever he wants. Actually, they are great devotees of the Lord, and they have all. Kuvera thought that they have already been deprived of so much of their kingdom by unrighteous people. If they want some flowers, let them take it. Let them take as many flowers as they want. And then Bhima gathered all the flowers, and then he brought them back. And as he brought them back, Draupadi was delighted by seeing these flowers. And Bhima was also satisfied on seeing the smile of Draupadi. So Bhima did many spectacular activities while he was in the forest. And we'll continue this discussion in our next class.